Welcome to R Mochi Podqast, the only podcast rated R for Robin. Derek fucking disappeared again. God damn it.
Oh,
All right,
I'm
I'm
back.
back. Thanks shit. All right, this is attempt number 3 at doing this podcast. Uh, Derek, you're part of Team Honeycrisp High Rollers with me, the only other team member. We're exclusive until we get applications, or I don't know.
I don't know what any of that means. So yeah.
Yeah, so you joined Mochi around the same time I did because I needed a buddy for the thing, and you just jumped on 100%. You were perfectly down to like, yes, I'm joining this cult. Where's directly to the fruit punch? I hope it's not grape flavored.
I mean, honestly, the punch is what drew me there to begin with. Like, fruit punch is delicious, spiked or not.
Could you imagine like the Kool-Aid man like busting into a room and he's like full of cult juice? Buy into my MLM. Oh yeah.
That'd be great.
All right. So you've been doing a couple journeys. You've been sticking with essentially the same like thing, specifically around like calorie measuring, right?
Yeah, basically. So started out with just pure get fewer than X calories per day. Since then, it's evolved to just a couple. Like for a while, I had 3 different things I could do. Like one of them was calories, one of them was steps, one of them was reading, and I had to do like 2 of them in a day. Now I'm just down to uh, physical activity and calories, which I'll admit I haven't been doing super great at compared to some of my earlier journeys.
The calories or the exercise?
More so with the calories, although I use pretty lame excuses for exercise too. So like for instance, if I go on a long walk, that'll be my physical activity.
Mm-hmm. So you've been trying to like hover around like the 2,000 calories. So are you just trying to like maintain weight?
Yeah,
You're not trying to cut or anything?
basically, yeah. It's yeah. So I got married in 2019, and prior to then, just by basically counting calories, not even eating healthier, I still ate garbage, but just ate less garbage. I lost like 40 pounds, so I'm just basically trying to not jump back up 40 pounds
Yeah,
again.
there was some like high school teacher who like he was trying to prove to his students that like most of the dieting shit is bullshit. I mean, there is
Mhm.
like how generally how you're gonna feel and like uh like how fucked up I guess you make your body from lack of like nutrition, but you can just do calories and you just like ate shit from like a convenience store for like a month and like demonstrated you can lose weight doing this. You just won't feel
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, like obviously, like if you eat 2,000 calories of ice cream or beer, like that's obviously not going to be as healthy for you as eating a bunch of vegetables and stuff. But just any little bit is better than doing nothing. So
Hmm. Yeah. I've also been absolutely I've been trying to gain weight, but my nutrition is super bad and I have honestly like I haven't done no, I haven't done any exercise this year yet. I tried doing
for the
100
whole year.
push-ups. I tried doing 100 push-ups like it was I think my first goal when we
Mhm.
started and like I tried doing it and it's like, "Oh, I'm sore for 3 days now." And I used to
Yeah.
be doing like 100 a day, and like I actually got to like I think the 4,000 mark when we by the time we finished.
Damn. Nice.
Yeah, I was also doing the medieval fighting thing at the time, and I haven't been going to that because they changed locations, and it's just like it used to be like a walk away, and now it's just a bitch of a commute.
What was that called again? The fighting thing that you did?
It's IMFA, I think, International Medieval Fighting. It's like
Okay.
fully armored sword and shield fighting. They also use like halberds, two-handed swords, and like maces and axes.
That's awesome.
It's fucking painful too. Um,
I can imagine. Yeah.
it's essentially like MMA, but in riot gear, which I have also rationalized to be like the practical application for it because you kind of think of like, oh, this is going to be good for close quarters, or this is going to be good for like military thing. Now, this is good for like if you're in a fully armored gang trying to oppress the other side.
I mean, yeah, it couldn't hurt.
So you're having an amber ale that you brewed. So you just started brewing like after you guys moved into a new place and you got not after you moved because you moved before you got married. It was like a wedding gift,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, it was. It was a wedding gift I got from a friend. So I've always been interested in brewing, and so I added just like a small starter kit to our wedding registry. Obviously, got that, and yeah, did a couple batches at our old place, and
Somebody
now
got
done
you
a
a
few more.
cauldron.
It's a slightly fancier cauldron, mind you. But yeah, it's basically just a tub. That's more or less what it is, and it came with like some starter ingredients and a couple things. And since then, I've just been buying like refills for recipes. And yeah, as you pointed out, what I'm drinking is an amber ale that I brewed, which I don't know how well the color comes off in the video
Other
stream,
way.
but it's
Other way.
yep, there we
There
go.
you
I
go.
have two screens. There you go. But it's like basically just black, which is not the color that an amber ale is supposed to be. But it
It's
tastes
like
good.
it's like piss. Like, oh, this should be lighter.
Never thought of it that way, but yeah.
So it doesn't come with like a still. It doesn't have any like a big copper thing that's gonna make you go blind eventually.
No. Yeah, literally just like a plastic like fermenter and like for so most of what I've been doing is extract brewing, which is very very simple. Basically like the wort, the main like hardest part to make is already pre-made for you. So basically I just use regular kitchen tools to, like get that um in a state where it's ready to be fermented and put in the fermenter. It's not as hard,
Do,
although
do you have to get like
recently I have
a do you have to get like the brand name like startup stuff, or can you kind of like DIY it at home?
you could just DIY it. So I've been there's a store or website called Mr. Beer where they just sell like wholesale ingredients, and it's obviously for a smaller scale. Like no like real brewery is going to do it. It's intended for people who have like small little home brewing things. But yeah, I just buy ingredients from them. I've bought from full recipe lists. I've bought just some random components. Like for instance, the next thing I'm going to brew is a stout that I just bought some cacao nibs to add into the recipe,
Hmm.
just because chocolate was going to work well in that.
They is it essentially like always just hops and then you add something else to kind of like change it up? I have absolutely no idea how the brewing like, thing works.
Yeah, so basically, four main ingredients of beer: water, yeast, grains, and hops. Essentially, like what I've been doing, like I said, the extract brewing, they basically take all the they have all the grains all processed already and the hops included in for some of them, although I've also bought my own hops to add in addition to those that come with extract.
Hmm.
So basically get the hops in the grains. Basically that's what becomes the wort, and you mix it in with the water and you basically ferment the water and the wort with in the fermenter. The yeast you add in is just what actively ferments it from
So,
like just
so like
a
what
chemistry.
distinguishes it from like grain alcohol, like liquors? Is it just like the concentration of like yeast, the amount of time you ferment it? Because you don't just like add like ethanol or anything to it. You just like
No, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I do know that
could you use your
beer
brewing
and
setup? Could you use your brewing setup for like hard alcohol?
probably not, although I haven't looked into it. I do know that most liquor is made differently, but whiskey is actually made with a similar wort process, which obviously is different ingredients and different
Hmm.
process. But at the very least, I imagine that it'd be conceivable to do whiskey
Hmm.
with some beer setup material.
Yeah. My drink is the appropriate color for what it is.
Piss?
No, it's green.
Oh, I
So it's the
oh I
Hulk's piss.
thought it was yellow. What are you drinking?
Absinthe. Can you guess what
Oh,
brand it is?
cheap brand. I don't know any brands of absinthe.
It's absinthe. Absinthe brand absinthe. For when you want to drink absinthe. Need a drink of absinthe? Try absinthe.
Man, if you see something at the store that says like vodka, that's kind of just the equivalent of what I'm thinking right now. Or just like in
Hey,
TV shows, if they had the labels for like Budweiser, so there'll be like beer on the can.
you bought a thing from a place called Mr. Beer.
You're not wrong.
Want to know
At
why
least,
they call me Mr. Beer? It's because my dad was an alcoholic and he left my family. My mom was spiteful. I actually have had beer brand beer.
yeah, I think you told me that once.
I think it was at like a U of I party, something. I think it was like unofficial.
Yeah,
That year, I puked everywhere.
was that the year that I went with you, me, and Tyler?
No, it was the year before that. That year where he got his car towed. That sucked.
Yeah,
That
that
was some shit.
sucked. because he got his car towed because he parked and there were no signs saying he couldn't, but someone had stolen the sign and he still had it still got towed. And he still had to get it out from
Which
the
is so fucked. Like
yeah, like
the day after like a party, you never want to like have to well, like deal with a hangover is one thing, but deal with like, oh, I also need to fucking pay to get my car back.
yeah, and also just in general, we're like we're not from Urbana-Champaign, so we're stuck there and we don't have a way to get home. We're like, well, this sucks. Like we don't know where Tyler's car is.
Tyler, it was fun. Good luck with your car. We're gonna take the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun though. That's my first and only time going to unofficial.
I mean, it's fun if you knew people and like had connection. It's not. It's. I really wouldn't recommend it for people uh, who don't know like where things are going on.
Yeah.
I don't. I wonder. I know it's a U of I thing. I have no idea if it's the same like in universities elsewhere because it's definitely not a thing in IWU.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we went to the same university. We're in the same fraternity. Man, our university is kind of going down the shithole.
a little bit, yeah. They recently cut like just a bunch of different programs, like complete programs, and then others they stripped down to minors or stripped out concentrations. Like the school of I think it was the School of Music or Art was at one point going to be like completely knocked down just to like, oh, you could have like a major in music.
Which is interesting because I know while we were there, they got an endowment of like $5 million or something
Yeah.
for like a new music building. And like the most recent the controversy with Sig Kai.
Yeah. I'm glad that something actually came of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, generally they would get a slap on the wrist, but like, yeah, they carve shit into the dude's forehead, and his mom got scared, and like,
I mean, absolutely.
It's a legitimate reason to get scared.
Like, that's really, really awful. And for context, Robin, you said like usually getting slap on the wrist. It's because for the school, like a lot of the biggest donors for our college all went to Sigma Chi. So like the old CEO of State Farm, he was a Sigma Chi from Wesleyan, and there's like several dorm buildings named after Sigma Chi donors. So that's why
they're like the stereotype. Would you say that they're the most stereotype frat on our campus?
So
we don't need to go into the frat politics.
All the football players were. I'd say that there were a couple others that are more just just generic fratty guys. But yeah, I mean they were definitely like that too. But I think it was primarily football players in Sig Chi.
Yeah, it's just a real shame. Like I've been reading a couple of different opinion pieces about kind of like what's going on. Like there's what's going on with higher learning in general, but then specifically going on with our university, where they're like they're still like they're trying to maintain the ethos of like we are a good liberal arts program, but we are cutting all of the liberal arts program.
And that it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, because you're right, like they're definitely angling more towards
cut religion, they cut languages, they cut.
They cut French. Anthropology, I think, is just a minor. Women's studies or gender studies.
Greek and Roman studies. They're keeping business. They're keeping econ for the most part. I think some people left. What surprised me is that they're leaving the English department alone. And
yeah, because you think it would be based off of like donors, and in that case, like it makes sense. Like business, economics.
Yeah, and we don't make money at all.
English majors, I imagine, can't be some of the biggest donors.
Yeah, so I'm super confused. I wonder if they've got like some dirt on them, or if like they are secretly the lifeblood of the universities. Like
they are the whole liberal arts experience.
just don't mess with the English house. The English house is like where they keep the experiments.
So you saying that reminded me of something. It is weird that there was like an English house. Like most other departments, they just had offices. So like, the math department had an office in the science building, which makes sense. The English house was literally just like an old house, like at the edge of campus, where it was just like a regular house where the only thing that happened there was just English professors had their offices there. It was strange.
Yeah. Like they have to be like harboring an alien or something. Like
the only logical explanation.
I mean, if it doesn't make them money, there has to be some, whatever. So you're an actuary. You work with State Farm, or is it Allstate? I don't remember.
So I used to work at Allstate. Now I work for a insurance brokerage company, Gallagher. They
Mhm.
do a lot of
Smashing
everything, but
watermelons.
different Gallagher. But who knows? Maybe some distance relations.
Oh no,
But
I'd love if like the sales pitch for is like you should try our company.
that's the ultimate test. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So basically selling insurance to a lot of different people. But one area where Gallagher's really big is to like selling like health insurance to school. So for instance, my wife Crystal, she's a teacher. Like her school, like all their health insurance and life insurance plans are through Gallagher. So stuff like that.
Mhm. And you're like the super highest level of actuary. You're essentially like a
I'm
10th
gold
degree black
star.
belt. You're a 10th degree black belt in actuarying.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, so an actuary is someone typically works for an insurance company, usually
Most of the people who
dealing.
who listen, I think, are adults and kind of know what an actuary is.
That's fair. I do find that more often than not now. I'm so used to just having to tell people what it is, but I feel like most people now kind of just have heard of it through osmosis. But yeah. So basically, to be an actuary, you have to pass a bunch of exams. So what Robin's referring to is I passed all my exams, and I never have to study for anything ever again, which is fantastic.
That was like, would you say that was like, what percentage of your life would you say that was over the past like 15 years?
Oh boy. So I started taking exams sophomore year of college.
Okay, so
So
not 15 years is excessive.
yeah, so 2013, yeah, because I started in the spring. So 2013, and I finished my last one in December 2018. So yeah, like 5.5 years.
And what percentage of your time would you say had to go towards studying for
Oh
these exams?
God. I did have it at the top of my head once, but I did track my study hours just to keep myself honest and make sure I was studying enough. And for each exam, I did study at minimum of 400 hours, 2 exams a year. So I could crunch the numbers later, but last time I'm like I don't know, it's like a month, like a
Uh-huh.
straight month a year or something like that.
Yikes.
By the way, is my video frozen? I can see one of my screens that I'm frozen, the other one I'm not.
You're fine for me.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that's all that matters, isn't it?
Doesn't matter what anyone else viewing.
Are you able to see the video in
Yes,
at
in
least
the
my video?
huh?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. What is like so you have to like be studying what kind of shit? So it's a math test essentially. Uh
Basically.
like what is the highest level math? You're not doing just like basic derivatives and like
So so it's all math based, but it's not like getting like a master's in math. Like I mean like I'm certainly I'd say that I'm better at math than like the average person, but like I'm definitely
you're
not
not
like
doing like
wizard at math.
theoretical.
I'm
You're
good
not
at
doing like theoretical proofs. You're not like proving
exactly good at
non-Euclidean
numbers and
geometry.
statistics. I'm not good at like I did the exams themselves. Like the first few actually like the first exam is on probability and statistics. The second one's on like financial mathematics. But as it goes
Are they
on,
mostly like
usually
word problems or just like
so initially they're so for those like first few exams where it's more just kind of like applied math,
mhm,
then it's like kind of word problems, but basically it's very calculation based.
mhm.
As you go further on in the exams, so there's different like paths you could take, different societies that credential actuaries for whether in your like life insurance or auto and home insurance.
What's your
Uh, so,
specialization?
so my I guess designation, my degree you could call it, is
I insure
the
watermelons.
I got the minor watermelon smashing, but yeah. So it's casualty insurance. So primarily auto and home, but then other things like liability, workers' compensation, stuff like that.
Mhm. Would you say there's like any application in just like your day-to-day life? Like, are you able to like when you buy a new fan, are you like it's gonna be a 5%
Oh,
increase in the tax deductible?
so okay. I guess in that regard, I am more familiar with insurance products than most people, just because
Mhm.
I mean the nature of the work I do. So I guess like so for instance, if I want like so renters insurance, unlike homeowners insurance, it's not really required in order to rent in most cases.
Mhm.
So like trying to just figure out stuff like that, is it worth it to get that versus like like an extended warranty on your car. So I guess it's helped in that regard. But other
Mhm.
than that, not really. Which, for the record, don't buy extended warranties for cars, but do buy renter's insurance.
But it's really never recommended to buy warranties for like anything, right?
Basically, yeah. It's there are some situations, but they're mostly for like businesses and like where like like a boiler shutting down, like getting extended warranty on a boiler versus you not being able to run your business for a few months
Hmm.
or or not having to worry about not being able to
Do
use the
do you
boiler. So
make the recommendations for so you just make recommendations for like what to charge, not like what package people should be picking.
basically, yeah. So definitely nothing customer facing. Just
That's nice.
essentially like looking at historical data, trying to project out what's changing in terms of like, for instance, obviously big one for the last year is like impact of COVID on
Hmm.
insurance. What so for instance, obviously a bunch of different impacts on that. One of which is people weren't driving to work as much, so therefore auto insurance should cost less money, and that's why all the biggest auto insurance companies ran ads for years saying like, oh, say we just cut prices by 15%, come join us, even though I mean it just kind of makes sense
So
because
what you're
you shouldn't
saying
be
is
charging.
that fucking gecko knew COVID was coming on.
Oh, he knew, yeah. The whole like for the last 20 years, the save 15%,
He probably
he was
fucked that
well.
bad.
Like Randy in the South Park special.
Oh my god. God, I really hope like they're like I think the ultimate joke is going to be kind of like there is no consequence to him because that's the only way you can kind of mirror the political like the social satire.
Yeah.
There is like 100% culpability of this person was a piece of shit and like but there is just no societal ramifications and unless they try to go for like making a hard stance, they're not gonna like kill him, which makes me mad
No,
because
they're not gonna kill Randy. Yeah,
like
I know
they
you're not the big fan of Randy. I'll say for the most recent seasons, yeah, they definitely played way too much into him. But like in the mid seasons, like when Randy was really becoming more of his own character, like Randy was still like one of the best characters.
I mean it was interesting because like they so after the election they had like a story path that they didn't really plan on going down, but because Trump won, they
Yeah,
they like had to flesh it out. But then the rest of
Mhm.
like the few seasons after it, they actually didn't focus on Garrison as president. He came in for like cameos and jokes, but I
Yeah,
still like I guess the satire still applies in that a lot of the consequences are still just like on adults being irresponsible and not taking things seriously when jokes have definitely crossed lines, which
yeah,
is how things are still going now. So
yep. Yeah, I have a good friend, his brother-in-law. Like, yeah, he not to get too much into it, but yeah, like he initially started like supporting Trump like as a joke, and
mhm.
then like it became less and less of a joke over time, and now he's like a diehard like conspiracy theorist.
Mhm. I wonder if like I think there are like Simpsons like history classes
Yeah,
that teach either filmography or like literature through like the Simpsons. I wonder if they're ever gonna do that with South Park.
I mean it's definitely like his. I mean, first off, I think it's a much better mirror of our times than The Simpsons is.
Hmm.
So, and I mean it's definitely like it has that cultural status. It's been going on for 20 odd years. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm sure people have.
I think it's 23 seasons.
That sounds right. Yeah, give or take.
Uh, but I been rewatching a bunch of the old episodes and they've got like some of the best. Just like this is a fucking stupid joke.
Yeah.
The one of my favorites, and it pisses off my wife because I still do it. Uh, It's they go to like a planetarium and like the guy at the planetarium is like, "Hi, welcome to the planetarium. Here at the planetarium, look at the stars." And I was like, why do you say?" It's like, "You mean the planetarium?" It's like, "Yes, I have a bone disease where I can't pronounce the T in planetarium."
I have not seen that. That's awesome.
It's so stupid.
That's fantastic.
But like
Yeah,
also the South Park movie, I rewatched it like 3 times in the past 2 weeks.
it's a good movie. I
It's
haven't seen it
so good.
since freshman year of college, but it's great. Like,
How do Chef, how do I make a girl like me more than any other guy? Oh, that's easy, Stan. You just gotta find the clitoris. Find the clitoris. What's that? Never mind. You're holding up the line. Guys, what's a clitoris? Huh? I gotta find the clitoris. What's the clitoris? Is that like Finding Jesus?
Yeah, yeah. Man, South Park used to be so good.
I mean, I'd still say it's pretty good. The
I haven't
last,
watched it in recent. I watched like an episode or two a season now for the last like 4 or 5 years.
I'd say like seasons like 2 through 7 are probably like the golden era of South Park, where it was still specifically jokes about like kids kind of misunderstanding
Yeah,
things. And then later on, it's kind of gotten more into like uh kids being part of like this global society. And I think that has something a lot to do with the transition to social media and how quickly everything kind of proliferates. It used to be I misunderstand something, I learn better from experience or from friends. Now everybody's like, I get all of my knowledge from what's trending.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. I didn't think about that, but that makes sense. It's also just, I mean, things are in the cultural zeitgeist so much more quickly now
Hmm.
than they used to be,
Uh,
largely due to social media.
the book I finished last week. I started the second one.
Free
The
body
three
problem.
body yeah, three body problem. Excellent book.
Yeah.
Not only in like the way it's told, but the way it actually. I think it has the same strength going for it that like the Bourne series does, in that it doesn't stray too far from reality.
Yeah.
With the sci-fi, a lot of this is a lot of the story is based on what we would really do if faced with like a certain unknown threat with power that we aren't yet understand we're not able to understand, and within
Yeah.
the world's science community. And like I think the way that we kind of address uncertainty is
Mhm.
super well captured, and I think that's like one of the things that like South Park does particularly well, where when we have like uncertain, we just kind of go with what we think is the easiest or most expedient route. The whole second book right now, I'm still in the beginning. I can't so I
Yeah.
can't say the whole book, but it's like what are humanity's choices given information relayed in the first book. I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, which I appreciate because so you've talked to me about it, and then just someone else that I like listened to on YouTube, he's actually just read it and just been saying good things about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I might pick it up.
Yeah, I think it's a Netflix series coming out.
I think so, yeah, and I could be wrong, but I think David Weiss or DB Weiss and David Benioff, the guys who made Game of Thrones, are doing it,
Mm.
and that's terrible because they're just the absolute worst.
Well, hold up. They had books to go off for the beginning.
Oh yeah, no,
And so
yeah, and
there
like
are 3 books that I think ties up the entire story, and they're all out. So I don't think they
as
can
long
fuck it
as
up as hard as they did the ending of Game of Thrones, which I haven't watched any Game of Thrones. So yeah.
yeah, and yeah, so let's see, but yeah, and yeah, Game of Thrones, it was absolutely at its best when they're following the books, but yeah, it's pretty much as soon as that happened, after like around like season 5 time, it was quality dropped significantly. It's clear that they just don't know how to write convincing dialogue or coherent stories.
Hmm.
So hopefully they don't try to do their own thing with the Netflix show.
Yeah. Hard turn. It's Gay Pride Month.
Oh yeah,
Fuck Milk Harry, or fuck Mary Kill.
oh.
Fuck Milk Harry. That's a
Yeah, military in particular.
who would you turn into a grain and who would you lift off? Fuck Mary Kill, the 3 Spider-Men.
Oh, you mean Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland?
Yeah.
Oh boy, definitely kill Andrew Garfield right off the bat because I just was not a fan of his movies.
Uh-huh.
Nothing against him in particular, although I did hear he was kind of a dick, and that's why they like didn't continue with him for a third because he was like an
The actor
asshole
or
to
the
like
character?
the actor
Uh,
Andrew Garfield.
which is funny because the character
Sorry.
actually was a pretty big asshole also.
Yes, he was that too, which is again like that doesn't work for Peter Parker. Like that's completely out of character for Peter Parker.
The
So that's why,
Yeah, Cosmonaut Picture Show did a breakdown of it, and like the
yeah,
first movie, it's a revenge plot where
yeah.
he's just beating up strangers, not trying to not trying to stop crimes. He's just doing it to fuck with people.
Yeah. Well, everything. So the movie tried to do a bunch of things, and I think it's admirable, but they also did all those things horribly. Like, for instance, they were trying to be like, like kind of like intentionally cheesy, kind of like the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, but like in a way that's like endearing and entertaining. Which, because I mean, you could have good like quality cheesy stuff, but like it just came off as bad. So yeah, kill Andrew Garfield for the character he played, I guess, in the movies he was in. Then fuck Tobey Maguire and marry Tom Holland, because Tom Holland probably is not old enough to be having sex with, and also just because Tom Holland he just seems like a really like nice, fun guy.
I don't think you're old enough to marry him. How old is he?
I realized that when I was saying it.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah. What state is he in? Yeah, so okay, I would kill the kid because yeah, you shouldn't fucking marry him.
Using that logic, yeah. So I'm sure he's actually like 20 something. I doubt he's actually like a kid, but he just looks so young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he's playing young Nathan Drake in the supposedly upcoming Uncharted movies.
I heard about that, which should be cool. Because have you played all of the Uncharted games?
I have, yeah. They were good.
They're good, yeah. I haven't played the most recent one. I'd probably say
four was good.
What? 4?
4 or the side story one where it doesn't follow Nathan and follows Chloe.
I have no idea who Chloe is, so 4 is like a thief's end or something.
Yeah, 4 was really good. Yeah.
Which one would you say is your favorite?
2 or 4. Probably 2, but 4 is definitely better than 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
One was like a solid game, but wasn't like there were so many themes that just they improved on afterwards, and 3 was just kind of more of 2, but not done as excitingly.
Cool. And to further go down the wrong route of representing Gay Pride Month, because neither of us are gay.
Who better qualified?
Your thoughts as a straight white guy, your opinion on the male nipple and your understanding of it.
Like opinion in what regards? Like from a scientific function, or
no. Like, so
public, or like
in terms of like social impact, I would say. Is it sexy? Like men are able to show their chests for anything. It's not a sex organ, but for women, it's not a boob until you see nipple, as far as like censors are concerned.
Yeah, like you could just have like they have like the like pasties or whatever, yeah.
And like as South Park demonstrated, you can put boobs on anything as long as it's not a woman and show it as like
yeah.
Is this technically down the street of like feminism and women's empowerment, or is this I don't think this falls under.
I think it's gay pride. I think it's way closer to feminism than it is gay pride or any of that.
Yeah, I gotta get somebody from the LGBTQ community for this.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably the worst person you could ask.
So I'm gonna ask you, absolutely. But yeah, male nipple. It's like I don't think it's sexy to women. Like whenever they describe,
I don't think so, yeah.
Whenever they describe like hot guys, it's like it's pecs, it's abs, it's like muscles.
That's how it's spelled.
Absinthe. They serve no sexual purpose, but they are like still erogenous zones for men.
Yeah, I don't know. That's right. I guess I've never thought of whether they were considered attractive or not before. I guess not.
You don't regularly think about the male nipple, is what you're trying to say?
Something I do. I just don't think about whether they're sexy. I just think, like, man.
Nipples.
Nipple. Males in particular.
And so, as you have self-described as one of the most boring people I could probably have on the podcast, I have come up with further prompts. Let's get 2, and then I think we'll try to go down an actual discussion path.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, if you had to be drunk on any TV game show, what would you go with?
Oh boy.
Like, who wants to be a millionaire, Dancing with the Stars, Iron Chef, Jeopardy,
So
Wheel of Fortune.
so my wife Crystal, she she loves reality TV shows. So like her favorite show of all time is Survivor,
Mm,
which I enjoy Survivor. It's fun. It's still going on. Have 2 seasons a year, so they're on season 40 something now, which is insane. But she's been more recently getting into like what I consider trashier reality TV shows. So stuff like Big Brother and The Challenge, which is like
what's Big
imagine
Brother?
survive. So imagine
It's like the
survive.
government monitoring you and like.
No, it's called Big Brother because they're all in a house and they always have cameras on them. But it's
So it is like that.
Survivor, I guess, kind of. Yeah, it's just the viewers are watching them, but
Mm.
it's Survivor, but it's indoors and it's just a bunch of trashy people. Like
Uh,
like they're constantly like getting into fights and stuff. So I think I'd have to pick something like Big Brother, where it's like kind of they're like egging people on to just be like super like like get drunk and be belligerent and
so
rude
so
to each other.
you're going for like fitting in with the movie or with the TV show's premise as opposed to
I mean,
like.
if someone gets drunk on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something, like you're gonna be that asshole who got drunk on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like, I don't want that to be on my tombstone.
You just want to blend into the crowd.
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
I can imagine with like Survivor though, like you know how they like gather together and like, oh, we're voting you off the island. Like they're gathering you together. The one dude's just drunk. It's like, this is actually an intervention. We're gathered today. We don't want to kick you off, but we will unless you stop drinking. We hate what you've changed into.
God, yeah. So again, I enjoy Survivor. It's a fun time, but it would certainly be a lot more exciting if if they were allowed to just get trashed on the island and they had to hold interventions for each other.
We need to stop. We need to cut him off from these like this coconut liquor because Christ, this is all this dude's doing.
Yeah.
All right, and I've got two. Would you rather's pick one or two?
Two all the way.
Okay. So it's oh shit. It's actually not a would you rather. Damn it! I just realized that. Like that.
Yeah, that's whatever. I don't
Okay.
care.
You move to Mars, but you become royalty when you get there. So you become like land owning. You're like prestigious or whatever. Or you stay on Earth, but you're Barack Obama's slave, and he's not gonna free you.
Oof. So, are there other humans on Mars, or no? Is it just me?
Eventually.
And you over no
No,
one?
so like you have to go through like the whole voyage. You go through all the training and shit. You're well educated and you can do insurance of like the planet. I don't know. But when you get there,
I have my Mars actuarial credentials.
when you get there with the other people, you are immediately kind of like given higher status. You are
Okay.
you own some of the land. I don't know if you're king of Mars, but like you're
I could
like a
just be
nobleman.
duke of a small region. I'm fine with that. I'm gonna go with the Mars thing. Honestly, like I love that question. Just the absurd specific nature of it. I think that's awesome. But I mean, obviously, so clearly, being in a position of power is better than being in a position of being a slave. But also, just in general, like the idea of like moving to Mars and not being the only one, and like you're gonna actually have a society there would be pretty cool.
Though I think like given trajectories, it's supposed to take like 10, 20 years to get there, right?
Like, why there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm woefully ignorant about
Mm.
space travel. That seems high to me though. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert.
Yeah, I went with the latter half of the would you rather because like there've been how many presidents with slaves? I think we should have one black one who's allowed to have a slave.
Jared, I'm not. I don't disagree. I'm just saying I don't want to be that slave. Also, I should
feel like
clarify.
it would be nice too.
I don't think that anyone should have slaves. I'll
Wait.
clarify that.
Say that again.
I initially said like I don't disagree with you saying like that black people should have slaves, but then I did clarify that obviously no one should actually have slaves.
I like would you rather.
Yeah.
So we've all been in quarantine and stuff. What have you kind of been doing to like eat up time? I guess I know you play like a lot of board games. but I imagine it's been
Yeah.
harder to like get people down at a table to do
Yes.
any like extended campaigns.
Yeah. So one thing I picked up, as we were talking about earlier, was the brewing, which isn't like a lot of time, especially because I mean it takes several months
Yeah,
for
it's kind
to
of like a
like
set it and forget it.
yeah, exactly. But so just researching that and doing the actual brewing process and buying new equipment and stuff like that.
Mhm.
During the beginning of the pandemic, I think I told you about this. I on eBay I just bought a bunch of like old like not great condition Pokemon cards because I loved Pokemon cards as a kid and
Mhm.
just wanted like I've like made decks with them and me and Crystal played with them and she hated it because she never liked Pokemon growing up, but it was I had fun. Um
Pika Blue, whatever.
so yeah, so for the first 5-ish months of the pandemic, we were in our old place, which we rented. And in August of last year, we bought the home we're currently in. And so one thing that's since then it's been taking up a lot of time is just, learning how to be a homeowner and trying to like save my yard from not just being dead,
Mhm.
like dead yellow grass and stuff like that.
You guys are in Skokie, right?
Schaumburg.
Schaumburg,
We were in Skokie before.
right? Have you thought about like swap? I know there have been like a lot of like viral posts about like replacing domesticated grass with like peat moss or something.
Hmm.
Because you don't have to cut it. It's not just like a useless like plant because it actually
Yeah.
provides a lot of sustenance to like the ground. So if you're actually going to be doing gardening, it's better for that, and it still looks yardy.
I've never heard that, but that I mean, with giving very little thought to it, that sounds awesome. Like, I mean, especially if my lawn doesn't turn out, like then I'm all for just tear it all up, replace it with a bunch of moss.
Yeah, I think it also kind of like it either like makes weeds look natural or it prevents weeds from growing. Uh,
Yeah.
but again, like these are like the viral Facebook posts. You actually need to do research. It's really just like a headline and
Oh,
fuck you,
I'm sure.
do what
Yeah.
you will, buy our shit.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, and as with anything, I feel like the first person in your neighborhood who replaces their lawn with moss, people are gonna walk by like, oh man, this asshole like doesn't have grass. It's good for us, but then like over time, it's going to become, assuming that this is something that's actually would happen, it
Mm.
would become more normal and destigmatized and whatever.
Yeah, dude, you should normalize the moss fields.
The moss.
You think about doing any like renovations to the home?
Nothing big right now. So we've done a lot of like smaller things. So like a couple weeks ago, we replaced the soffits. That the overhang of the roof over
Almost
basically
nobody knows what that word is.
I know, but basically just like stuff like that, just like small quality of life improvements, basically to improve ventilation since we had a mold issue when we moved in and in our attic, and obviously ventilation makes mold less easy to grow.
Mhm.
Um, right now, mostly focus on the yard. So tomorrow we're gonna go buy some like flowers and stuff like that because like right now we have a big flower bed that we just have nothing but dirt in
Mhm.
and
How old is
stuff like.
the home itself?
It was built in the 70s, 75 or 77, I think.
Mhm. Nice.
So yeah, so definitely not like falling apart or anything. And I mean, like prior owners have like there's a like the kitchen is relatively updated. The counter, the countertops are like new and there's nice appliances, but like the cabinets themselves are kind of ratty
Mhm.
and don't always open great and stuff like that. So maybe like small things like a new gliders for the rails and
How
stuff
many
like
year
that.
mortgage did you kind of like plan out for it?
We have a 30-year mortgage.
Mhm. Yeah, this is something so because I've been abroad for so long. I have not
Yeah.
been around the housing market in the States at all, and I haven't like had any thought to like get a house. It's interesting to me like seeing friends buying houses because
Mhm.
as millennials, a lot of the messaging is like you're never going to actually be able to afford a house. You're never
Yeah.
going to be able to comfortably live after your student debt is through.
Yeah.
But it's you, like I'm starting to like think about like getting a house eventually, like when I get back to the States.
Hmm.
Um, I just really have no idea like kind of where to start with like considerations for like mortgages and shit like that.
Yeah, I could talk all day about that since had to go through the process ourselves, but won't bore you with the details now. Whenever you're actually interested, I could give you
Well,
thoughts. And that.
I mean, let's at least like kind of talk about the that kind of conception that we will never be able to buy houses. So you've got a
Yeah,
very like well-paying job. Actuaries get like fuckloads of money, and then they just gotta not kill themselves, and they're good. It's like accountants.
basically yes.
Um, and like your wife, she's got a good teaching job. So you guys
Mhm.
have like good paying jobs. We all went to the same university.
Yeah.
So we all have like relatively similar, like comparable like student debt.
hmm
What would you say about like the what considerations really kind of need to be made in order to be able to get a house?
Yeah, good question. So right now mortgage rates are super low, like 3% and under versus like student loan, depending on you like subsidized or unsubsidized student loans like are probably going to be significantly higher. So like
Housing loans
paying
have
down
been much lower than student loans for a while, haven't they?
mortgage, you said,
No,
or
yeah, mortgage rates have been far lower
yeah,
than interest rates for
which
students.
is not great, but yeah, really, but yeah, so yeah, paying down. I mean, for me personally, like we prioritize debt for that reason. Just because I mean, just like financially. Also, I mean, obviously we own a home and we enjoy living here, but also at the same time, like I don't think that like people need to rush out and get a home. Like
Hmm.
it's like people will always say it's a great way to accumulate wealth and everything, and you're not paying rent that's just going out of your pocket into someone else's every month, which is all
Hmm.
true. But owning a home also is a lot more expensive than it seems up front, just for like
Yeah, yeah,
maintenance.
all of the
Like that.
repairs need to be for yourself. All of the
Yeah,
any changes to the home, you take it straight out of your pocket.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, so I don't know. I guess I don't want to say recommendation, and I'm clearly not a financial advisor and would not want people to think as such, but basically I would definitely, for me personally, I think prioritizing debt is the most important. And I also don't think that people need to be in a rush to buy a home
Hmm.
because honestly, renting isn't that bad.
Hmm. Any reason why you guys like opted to the home as opposed to staying in like your apartment?
So our old place was pretty small, so that was definitely a consideration, but
Hmm.
and also just we'd been like looking at. I mean, so for people listening, my wife and I, we've been together since college, since 2012. So like
Since you
we've
stole her away.
yes, but well, so basically, I mean, like we've been in a long-term relationship for quite a while, and like, I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, you got to do like step A and then get married and step B and then buy a house or whatever. But at the same time, it's we didn't have as many concerns about like what if we break up and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
we've been thinking about buying a house for a while, and I don't know, it just seemed like a good time with us with I don't want to say COVID was like like a good time or even a
Hmm.
good time to buy a house, but like it really I don't know, I don't want to say reprioritize, but like put things in perspective, I guess.
Hmm. Don't want to stray too far from the topic. We'll circle back to it. We just in regards to marriage, because we are both like recent marriees. I don't know what the you fucking call them. um,
Wow.
did you consider a prenup?
Not seriously. I just like I considered it for a second and then didn't really ever think about it again. And it's not like I thought about it endlessly and said, no, I'm not going to do this. I just kind of
Hmm.
thought about it and forgot about it.
Hmm.
And um
So this
I
will
mean
so
honestly,
this podcast will be like will be documentation of like if something goes wrong, we're like
then send it to
ah.
the police or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so no, didn't really consider it other than just like at a cursory level. How about you?
Mhm. No, so I brought it up and we kind of discussed it. Uh, there was a huge fight about it because like a prenup is also just generally like in many cases it is very much like a symbol of like distrust in either the other person or in your
Yes.
faith in the relationship. Um, and like I also very much did not go through the like traditional like you know step A through D. We dated a bit we finished Secret of Mana, and she proposed to me, and so uh,
Nice.
and we got
Good
married.
game.
What?
I said good game, by the way.
Pretty solid, I would say. It was a very interesting uh, combat system, but like in discussing like the prenup, it is really kind of like a gut check for like where your priorities are.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And so what you were saying about being like, it's inherently a distrustful thing and it being a gut check, like I definitely get that. At the same time, and I didn't get one, so like I can't
I
really
also didn't,
speak up
so
to this. But I do think also like I think that the stigma of those of like, dishonesty or distrust or whatever isn't really necessary. Like I don't know. I feel like it's a prudent measure,
mhm.
but again, I didn't get one, so what do I know?
Yeah, a lot of like financial advisors, at least on YouTube. So take what you will of their credentials.
Yeah.
But like everybody kind of recommends just get one. It's always in your best
Yeah.
financial interest in the long term, regardless of whether or not you actually get a divorce.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it should be like a thing that should be like more normalized or what.
I think it should be. As someone who doesn't have them.
Because of the stigma, we couldn't.
But
Where's
yeah,
our month? Uh, Again, to go further down the route of we shouldn't be done. But yeah, back to like the house situation.
mhm.
Like now is still it's still a relatively good time just because most people aren't like in the neighborhood to buy houses. Uh, Prices are pretty low for interest and stuff.
So rates are currently very low, and they're actually like they're even lower, or on average, I don't think they are, but okay, regardless. So I'll just say rates are low, but
Mhm.
prices. So and obviously varies by region, varies by like whether it's kind of house, apartment, whatever the case may be. But demand is actually really high right now. Like for
Mhm.
instance, we have a friend who just bought a house. They were, and at one point they were looking at a house like literally like 5 minutes from us, like
Mhm.
down the street from us, which would have been awesome, but they didn't go for it. So basically, same neighborhood, same or similar schools, all that stuff that contributes to a cost. It was a smaller house, and it was like more expensive than ours.
Mhm.
And obviously, that's one anecdotal example, but prices in general, like if you look at like Redfin estimates or Zillow estimates, they track them over time, and like it's right now it's definitely like a hot market, like a good like seller's market. I think
Mhm.
our home, like the expected value, who knows what we'd actually get for it, but our expected home value has increased 8% in less than a year. Like it's
What
insane.
what were like your biggest considerations in like getting the home in the location that you picked? So like the schools, was it the community? Is it like expected real estate value to like an appreciation of that? Because
Yeah,
I can't think of like many locations in Illinois that are like high value outside of like Chicago, and
yeah.
like
So
just rich communities.
I was about to say all the like rich North Shore communities. Those are
Yeah.
stupid high value. But yeah. So basically all the things that you mentioned. So this home is definitely a long term purchase for us. This is
Hmm.
like we bought with the intention of staying in this home for several decades. Like we're not looking to move. So yeah, schools was definitely a big one for that reason because not only because you want your kids to go to good schools, but also because I mean like helps the resale value. It's less likely for the neighborhood to really decrease in home values when you go to sell.
I mean,
If
Crystal's also a teacher there, so that also I imagine played into it a bit.
Yeah, so she doesn't teach too close to us. She teaches not in Chicago, but in Harwood Heights in Norridge, which is it's a suburb like
Hmm.
encapsulated by the city. It's east of O'Hare.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that was a consideration, and then also just like kind of you were saying, just like like the kind of city or neighborhood it's in. So like for instance, Schaumburg has like a very good like park district, and they have like a bunch of like parks and stuff. Like today we went on like they just have a like a small little like park district lake where you could rent boats and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
just like
You got a pretty nice
nice,
mall too, don't you?
yeah. Although we also went there today, but yeah, so a very big mall, which not my scene, but nice to have if you ever have to like looking for a specific
When,
restaurant or specific store or something.
Whenever we're feeling comfortable with like the stupid buys again.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, Going back to like actuary stuff, like so we're still like actually I don't know. Illinois has kind of lifted most quarantine stuff, right?
Yes, they have, or we
Uh,
have.
like I think it like with the quarantine pandemic stuff, it kind of like calls to question a lot more of like the socialized healthcare stuff. And with
Mhm.
socialized healthcare is like the implication of like what happens to insurance companies. Do you have any
Yeah.
concern as like an actuary, either for your job security or whatever, with like large overhauls politically in like healthcare funding or like the insurance industry?
Yeah, good question.
It's
Do I have
very
any
technical,
concerns? No.
technical shit.
Yeah, so concerns for like me personally, no, not really.
Hmm.
In terms of like, impact on the industry, like, I mean, obviously, whether it's a full like Medicare for all or even if it's a public option, that I mean, like either way, like that's going to dramatically, if either completely reduce or just get rid of health insurance companies. So, for those companies, that's just yeah, that's just that.
So, but you don't think it would affect housing and like car insurance and stuff?
Uh, Not as much. So from like an employee perspective, like maybe a little just because you have like, a bunch of claims representatives who are now looking for work and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
from an actual like the impact on actually I'm going to walk that back. So it won't impact like physical insurance. So for instance, your home burns down, your car gets hit by a deer or you hit a deer or whatever, stuff like that. It won't impact, but like the
Your
liability
car
associated
gets
with
hit by a deer.
yeah, just the car's just sitting there minding its own business. Deer runs along.
The car just looks at the deer, and the deer is just like,
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so the liability side of those things, those will change, but the changes won't be as dramatic. So for instance, right now, the primary reason why like people why first off, why you need car insurance and why you should have car insurance is because if you get in an accident right now and you seriously injure someone, then obviously you need to be
Mhm.
able to cover the cost of their medical. So obviously the impact of more socialized healthcare is going to change that so that's going to change basically what the liability insurance covers for auto or home or whatever the case may be. Like, but regardless, it won't completely negate it. There's other things you could be liable for instance. And it's also only one smaller part of a total package. Like the liability portion of your homeowner's insurance policy, for instance,
Mhm.
is much smaller than the cost of your home burning down.
Mhm. Do you imagine like risk is gonna be going up? Like also as the quarantine ship has been like lifting off, or as quarantine stuff is being just like lifted,
Yeah.
it's not taking off like a rocket. Uh, People are like traveling more, and like people are more likely to be driving further. They just want to like get out of the house and do shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
is that like any uh consideration, I guess, for the industry?
Yeah, so yeah, good question. Basically, it's the inverse of what I was saying before with how like auto companies. Oh, we're gonna we're such good guys. We're cutting your rates by 15%, even though no one's driving.
Hmm.
So basically, just the inverse of that. I imagine that just all considerations. So when it comes to
We're only
like
going to
what
be increasing your rates by 15%. Isn't that great?
let's be hopeful for that. But but regardless, yeah. So basically, just in theory, it's just a return to equilibrium. I'm sure that there are further considerations. So yeah, so right now I'm not exactly at the forefront of like auto insurance like I used to be a couple years ago, but basically just so when the pandemic hit, it's the main thing that's really changed is just the frequency of drivers and therefore the frequency of accidents really
Hmm.
went down. Whereas the severity, like how much damage or loss of life was happening per accident, either stayed the same or depending on what you're looking at and what regions increased.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I imagine the frequency will go back up. I don't think the severity will change that much, but again, we'll see.
And I
I
think
could
that
also
gone.
I could also see so a lot of so when you're pricing insurance, a lot of it is looking at historical data, but you can't just look at historical data. You have to project changes that are going to happen in the future,
Hmm.
and so trying to some people might I don't know might make some predictions, which I think would be pretty insincere if about like saying, oh, because of what you were saying, like, oh, people are more eager to get out and people are going to be driving even more than they were before, then those assumptions could come into play and could increase rates even higher than equilibrium.
Hmm. Yeah, the I've been trying to consume a lot of like sci-fi stuff
Yeah.
recently, and just like kind of the consideration for how we're going to be transitioning kind of away from uh I don't know if we're going to be not as much like transition away from just like privately owning like your transportation, but like
Hmm.
because we're going to be going towards like self-driving cars, because we're going to be
Yeah.
kind of like phasing out a lot of like the old and like really outdated transportation stuff, or at least updating it.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, but so where you may have been going is, yeah, will that have an impact? Yeah, that'll, I feel like that'll definitely like have an impact. I mean, even with self-driving cars, once that becomes like
I mean, the
more
companies
common.
will still definitely want insurance for all those things.
Yeah, but like in theory, like again, what happens, we'll see. But in theory, like you'd really expect insurance prices to go down because people would be getting into fewer accidents if self-driving cars are safer, which by all accounts they are.
Hmm. Yeah, give it another 4 seconds. Hold up. Yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
I'm glad we waited that sufficient amount of time
No,
before
no,
continuing.
it's always got to be there at least like a little bit, you know. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, if it's just too fluid, it's like how much of this is scripted, how many of these segues are actually planned, and they're not natural. Got to leave them in there.
Got to really show how uncomfortable we are.
Yeah, man. Movies, TV shows, books, anything like you're kind of like looking forward to either on the coming year or just like off over the horizon.
Yeah. So one movie I'm really looking forward to is Dune. So obviously Dune, sci-fi novel from the 50s.
Hmm,
It's credited with a lot of like, inventing modern day sci-fi basically.
really?
That's probably a bit of an exaggeration. Don't quote me on that, but
I've
it's like
never heard about this book, so I don't know.
I'm very surprised to hear that. But it's like considered a monumental like landmark in science fiction. So the movie's coming out. It's supposed to come out last year. Now it's coming out like in October.
Hmm.
It's been on my list for years to read, and I just haven't gotten around to it until just a couple months ago. Because the movie's coming out, I decided might as well
Yeah, I'll have
try
to
and get
check
out
this
ahead
out.
and read the book. And so I've read the first book now, and it's really good. And I'm definitely looking forward to the movie because of that.
Are they still doing like big theatrical releases for things, or like I wonder how I imagine not well, but like how well they're going to be able to like bounce back from like the pandemic stuff, because it just really demonstrated how much like theaters are really not needed.
Yeah, it did. So
If anything, they're gonna have to like make a transition to like a theater being like a rentable space for you to just kind of watch your movies in.
which some people did during the pandemic, like some like AMC's, you could rent out a theater for like $100, and they had like a selection of movies you could watch in it, which is a good idea if
Hmm.
you aren't doing anything else with the space. But so yeah, in general, I mean, like you're right. I mean, like obviously streaming has been a thing before the pandemic, but clearly when that's the only time you have access to movies, it's
Hmm.
we've realized now like, oh, you don't have to go to see a movie every week, or you could wait until something goes on Netflix or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of smaller movie theaters or like mid-sized chains are probably going to go under just because I mean because of the hit that the
Hmm.
movie theater industry took. AMC and stuff like that is going to be fine. I mean AMC in particular. I don't know if you followed at all like all the craziness of the stock this past week,
No, I have no idea
but
what happened.
dude, it went nuts. Like so pre-pandemic, AMC was like consistently okay, I won't say pre-pandemic because I don't have a good grasp on that, but basically for the longest time, AMC has been like 9-10 bucks a share. Then during the whole run up with GameStop
Hold
and
up, hold
everything,
up. Gonna coin
yeah.
the phrases right now: pre-demic and post-demic. Go on.
Oh, nice. I like that. Regardless, what do you call it during the pandemic then?
No, we forget that time.
Right?
It
All
never
right,
happened. It was the lizards.
yeah, I just woke up one day a year and a half later and everything. Yeah, but yeah, so basically during the run up with GameStop a few months ago, like AMC got like reached heights of like 19-20 bucks. So like for
Hmm.
GameStop, very high. Or sorry, for AMC, very high.
Hmm.
And since then it's deflated back down to 9. This past week though, it's gone off the rails. Like at one point, it was like $70. Like,
Holy shit.
and so yeah. So first off, like, and it's still, I
What
mean,
was it,
it's
like
lower.
another Reddit attack, or was it a like a
Basically, I
uh
mean, like it's a bit more complicated, but that was a large thing. AMC is a very big meme stock for our Wall Street bets, but also in general, though, like with the they made some like when announcements were made about like people not having to wear masks. They have 2 weeks after being vaccinated and stuff like that helps them and other things of that nature.
mhm.
But so AMC, one reason why they in particular are going to be good, not only because their stock price is high, but they also cashed out like a significant share. They sold a significant share of their own stock
Hmm.
at the peak, which caused the stock to drop $20 right after that. But like so they had now have enough like liquid cash to like live forever, basically.
Mhm. Man, like it's interesting. I think one of my biggest changes for like this past or this current year is that like I am so tuned out of politics like since
It's been nice.
honestly like since like the inauguration.
Yeah.
Uh it's been nice, but like I don't know. I do think I have like now I think about it, I have been kind of like filling up with just like mind-numbing media, just like watching video game like gameplay and like movie
Mhm.
reviews.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna go into it, but like the Israel Palestine thing, like I really don't
I
know. I don't know many of the details of it, which is like a crazy thing to me.
Oh yeah, like I mean, true for both of us. Like last year, like I'm sure any hot button political issue, any political candidate, any whatever, I'm sure both of us like knew like all the
Hop on that
information we
shit.
could know. And then like now, I mean, like I still pay like a little attention, but I mean, compared to what I used to, it like up through basically through like the Georgia elections in January, like through there. That's since then I've been peacefully more or less checked out.
We've been,
It's been
I think honestly, like January was like a successful inoculation for a lot of like the news media,
mhm.
or at least I don't know, maybe just like the consumers. But like because everything was like so like it was like week to week, there were like at least three different enormous scandals going on over the past 4 years.
Yeah,
Like now it's just like, man, just feed me the PewDiePie. Just give me them game ropes.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
watch
It's
I'll watch like 30 like 20-second clips just to not just to like wash the flavor out. It's like a million different like little palate cleansers.
yep.
But like I definitely need to kind of get back into it because like there's a lot of shit going on. Like uh pretty close to Ukraine right now, like the whole like everything going on in Belarus.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
actually not super familiar with what's going on with Belarus.
there's a there's a dictator essentially, and he like
Mhm.
there have been huge protests for a long. Now I feel I'm fairly certain it's Belarus. Yes, I'm close to 100% it's Belarus.
I'm going to call it Belarus regardless.
Uh, but they've been locking up journalists. Apparently
Oh, the plane thing where they
they
grounded a
grounded
plane.
yeah they grounded
Yeah, that's
like
right. I
a
forgot
passenger
about
plane
that.
because there was some journalist on there that they didn't want going somewhere else.
Yep.
And it's very close to becoming like a big international crisis, but it's also like countries that, as far as I'm aware, most of the West doesn't know where it is and doesn't actually give a shit. Like you could say that in most cases for the Middle East, like even though like the way we labeled it was a direction and location, most people couldn't
Mhm.
point to where the Middle East was.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, yeah.
and like when you actually give the country a name, nobody's gonna actually know where it is, at least in America.
Yeah. Yeah, I guarantee you that 8 out of 10 Americans couldn't find Yemen on a map.
Before I like flew to Ukraine, I really didn't know where Ukraine was.
And that's, yeah. And like, also, I mean, like, what I just said, like, I didn't mean it to sound like derogatory at all. It's just like, I mean, that's just it until you
Don't worry, I'll take
you said,
offense.
Ukraine. I'm glad someone will. But no, but like I mean, like other like for most things, like obviously, yeah, it'd be nice if everyone had a perfect sense of world geography.
Geolocation.
Yes, exactly. But like also at the end of the day, there's depending on how you count them, like 200 odd countries. Like if you forget or don't know the location of a relatively small country, like yeah, it's whatever. You should know where China is, but if you don't know where Belarus is, you're fine.
But it's funny, but like still with that logic, like Ukraine is actually the largest European country,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
it has like one of the larger populations. Uh,
Hmm.
and like literally the only reason it's on like the U.S. radar is because of the shit with like Hillary Clinton and then Crimea,
Yeah.
or not Hillary Clinton, the shit with Hunter Biden or whatever.
Yeah, and Trump, the impeachment thing. Yeah.
Those are the only reasons anybody has any idea of like
Hey,
Ukraine being like a
the
European country.
Chernobyl TV show probably drummed up some name recognition for the
Uh,
Ukraine. Too. Although they never would have referred to it as the Ukraine though. It was just Soviet bloc. Yeah. No,
uh,
but I mean you're not wrong that like I mean so I mean obviously it's a balance. Not everyone needs to be like a geopolitical genius, but at the same time I do agree that like the average person probably should learn a bit more about world geography
like
as well as other things.
how? So you're way better at geography than I am. I talked with somebody about this like recently. Uh, oh yeah, it was another friend like went to our university, but like I can't tell you yet the states that are around Illinois.
That's disappointing. You know the states around the state that
I
you
learned in college Wisconsin is to the north. Everywhere else, I don't. I like. I keep looking. I keep forgetting. I don't know what it is with like we learn geography in like schools and like public schools.
yeah, and like I remember one time a few years back we had a conversation where you were like, "Oh, isn't Ohio in the South?" and stuff like that. Which again, like I mean, like again, it's a balance. People don't need to know everything, but like, yeah, knowing the states around where you live probably good to know.
But like beyond the states, like so I know a lot of schools they like kind of drilled and like required one, know the states, two, like this is something that I never had to do, but like you had to learn the
Mhm.
capitals. Uh,
Yes.
uh, and for most places that was like it. But I think only in high school is when I started learning anything about European history. But
Yeah, that's true.
we learned like literally nothing about like 80% of the world. We know where
Oh,
we know the continent, so we can
nothing
probably
about
place them.
South America, Africa, most of Asia. Like, yeah.
Uh, and like I guess it would be excessive to like kind of require kids to learn about like the names of all these countries, especially because like a lot of countries like they're one their borders are in flux, but two also like even in our time, one the Soviet Union, no, it wasn't in our time, it was right before our time, but like our history books still had, I don't know about you, but like my history books still had the Soviet Union in them.
I don't think mine did, but I don't know. So our history books, like even for like even like the class like 20th century history,
Mhm.
which I took for a semester, like it stopped at like the 19 like 50s. Like
Yeah, World
and
War
the
II.
course class was supposed to be about the 1900s. And there was basic like the last chapter was basically like there's like then the Cold War happened and like there was like basically nothing about like like Nixon or the fall of the USSR and stuff like that.
I would say the most history that I got from like the 1950s, like leading up to the 90s, was "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel.
You're not
Literally,
you're not wrong.
one of our teachers actually played that song for us. None of us had any idea what the fuck like that song was about. One, because we didn't learn about it, but two, like we were kids, we didn't fucking listen to Billy Joel.
As someone who loves Billy Joel, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I
But
also love Billy Joel.
yeah, no, I legit like I'd go to his like pre-pandemic. He used to play used to play Wrigley Field every year, and I went most years to see him. I
Oh,
love
really?
Billy Joel, but
Oh,
yeah,
I'd love to
but
go to. I'd love to go to one of his concerts.
yeah, we should definitely go if he ever plays it again and doesn't die. Like,
Oh
but
man,
yeah,
people dying.
yeah,
How
but
old is he? Is he in the 70s, 60s?
I want to say late 60s, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
He was yeah. I don't know. I think like one of the years I saw him, and this was post college, so relatively recent. I think it was like his 60th or his 65th birthday, like when he was playing. So yeah, he's probably around late 60s to
Mm-hmm.
average it out.
But yeah, like a lot of like learning geography and stuff, and like as far as I remember, it's like be able to label the continents, kind of know about like what climates are, and like there are deserts, there are like tundras. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know like what should change. What are the correct changes to like kind of fix the the America centrism.
That's a really good point, really good question. I don't know. I think just like better education. So both with like within and like about America as well as not America. So for instance, something we've talked about before, like the fact that like like the Tulsa massacre, like I wasn't taught that in
Hmm.
school, and that was like a pretty big event in America. Like
Hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah, maybe I don't know. Like I think the problem is when you talk about geography, you naturally you at some point will like step into like the realm of geopolitics, and
yeah.
education and politics are just like they really don't want to play with each other.
Yeah, and they shouldn't for most things. Like I
But
remember like my eighth grade science teacher, he was like or it might have been seventh grade, but regardless, middle school science teacher, he was like hell bent on telling us that like global warming wasn't a thing. And like
ooh
first off,
wee,
yeah, huh?
ooh wee.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm in middle school. I don't have any preconceived notions or any well-researched thoughts about climate change, but an authority in science, in theory, is telling me, oh, climate change isn't real. So like, it makes sense. Like, at that time, you're like, oh yeah, like climate change isn't real. Hence why it's probably not great to talk politics.
I think it'd be like interesting to at least kind of at least like a way to kind of categorize or kind of or introduce a person or a kid, I guess, to different countries would be uh, like, and something that'd be really interactive would be doing different kind of like voting systems around the world, because like one of our like closest allies, the UK, until I like talked with somebody in China about how the UK election system worked, I really had no clue.
Yeah, it's basically they elect a party instead of like people, right?
Well, not only that, but like you need to win like a proper plurality. So like if the party itself doesn't get 50%, you need to form coalitions, which like
Yeah.
in the US that it's just like you have to pick Democrat or Republican, or you can pick Green Party and guarantee you'll never win.
Yeah, exactly.
And like just be, like right now we have no conceptualization of how to like properly we have no agreement on how we can change. Everybody agrees we need to fix the election system, but nobody has any idea how, because nobody has any experience. Nobody has any like worldly context.
True. Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that is tangible and reasonable enough to kind of like,
Oh,
yeah,
it's
in like a sixth to eighth grade span, you're able to cover some of that shit.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, like, and also I think that will also, I don't want to say more informed, but more like willing to, like a populace that's more willing to vote and exercise that right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, because as it stands, like, I mean, the number of people who just straight up like don't care about politics or who just never vote, like, again, you do you. If people want to be completely like just uninvolved in it, that's one thing. But in general, like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot. Like, people should be voting more than they're voting.
I think this is definitely a remnant of like the Cold War, but the like the long or the like the abbreviated description of like the way we kind of like learn about American politics is like democracy or socialism, or democracy or
Yeah.
communism. That's really all you ever learn. The way what we have is good, and because it's better than the only one alternative, this is all you should support.
Yeah.
And then you eventually fall into like learning about democratic policies versus Republican parties, but you don't learn anything about like the context of like other places, how they run their governments, what is a norm, what in
Mhm.
terms of standard of living. You don't learn any
Yeah.
about of that growing up.
Yeah.
It's just like we won, and you should celebrate that. It's not like there's nothing about these are things that are kind of that can be done in different ways and maybe better ways. It's just we did it.
Yeah.
This is good.
And you're definitely right. Like, I remember hearing a bit back about like I can't remember the context and why this came across my radar, but like basically, there was some school system. I don't know the state or the city or whatever, but they were basically they were trying to teach a more like holistic approach to like not American exceptionalism, and like a lot of the parents were like really upset and
Hmm.
like protesting over. And I remember one like quote from this guy in particular where he's like, I'm not saying that there aren't problems with America, and I'm not saying that like we should like say that there are no issues, but like my what I want my kids to understand when they go to school is that like what like the worst day of living in America is better than like the best
I
day
feel like I've seen this video.
and it's like what
Hmm.
like like in what world
Yeah, it's very much part of the school curriculum, just American exceptionalism.
yeah
Uh,
yeah and I'm not saying that like things have to be like super like you don't I'm not saying you have to go completely like, man, everything America's ever done is horrible, and you can't have any like, have any like pride in your country or whatever. But at the same time, like Jesus,
oh no, I'm
like
still like
what
proud.
about the bad things?
I'm still like proud to be an American. I still think it's like the best country in the world, and like I've had to like rationalize this a lot more. I think being abroad and like being like my wife not being an American citizen, um, it's like why I think it's like it's still inspiring to me to like have the chance to like to participate in like a worldwide like a global community. Just like we have diversity on every other country in the world, really.
Oh, absolutely.
uh Except I guess for maybe like religious like freedom to like just for
Yeah.
freedom to
Very good.
freedom to worship and freedom to actually like be okay in your community and not be harassed for it.
Yes, that could definitely use improvements for sure.
But in terms of like different perspectives, being able to have like different cultures like right next to each other, I think we're
Mhm.
still like number one. And uh the prospect of making a better country as opposed to just like resting on the we are the best country is to me what is better about America than uh other places. Like we I think uniquely because we're such like a shorter country, a much younger country, uh we don't have a lot of like the history because we stole that from other people.
Yeah, and also just I mean like relative to most other countries in the world, if not all other countries, I mean we truly are a nation of immigrants that
Hmm.
like it's just people bring their own cultures over, which is great. And then you have a bunch of other cultures that's like way less homogenous than like most European countries or Asian countries.
Hmm. Like aside from the fact that we are like built off of the culture, we are built on the grave of the culture that we stole the country from.
Yeah, I
It
mean
it,
obviously, yeah,
it
built up brave of their cultures and slavery and stuff. So
yeah,
like
like it is a it is a country of like a bunch of different cultures beyond like just like white culture trying to make improvements in the lives that we had left before.
yeah,
And like in doing that also kind of like serving as example to or like as a resource to bring back to other countries. It's very much like I always feel like I use this term wrong, but brain drain, like a reverse brain drain of like we're
oh
trying to like make things
yeah,
better,
yeah,
trying to make things better in the US, and then it like people can bring it back to their countries to make other things better. But at the
yeah.
same time, then we like, oh, we did everything the best here, and we bring it to the other country. This is how you should do. This is absolutely the only way you could do this thing. We get wrapped up in that shit. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like living abroad, I think definitely put a lot of like perspective in my value as, especially like an Asian American, like the my pride in being an American, because my parents also they're like proud to like got into America and become like citizens, but they're very much not like able to be vocally proud about it. They're not able to, if they go into like
You get
a
people.
group, what,
Sorry, go ahead.
they're not able to like go into like a group of other like Americans, especially if it's like a group of just like white Americans, and be like, oh yeah, we're super good, we're great Americans, we're like the best Americans.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid you were gonna say. Just like, yeah, the fact that like terrible people will say like, oh, like you're not a real American.
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
But my family, like
like
they travel a lot, and like it's always like, oh yeah, we've got American passports. This is we did it. We are awesome. We're happy to be Americans. But then
yeah,
like you're back in the country and like
yeah,
I'm a
it's pretty
Filipino.
shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's obviously obviously an issue. Yeah, there's still way too many people who have very prejudiced views on who a real American is. When obviously anyone who's an American is a real American.
Hmm.
Yeah, like and I won't get into it.
Go for it.
I was just gonna say when like I remember like the group of four young female senators like with AOC and
Hmm.
Ilhan Omar and yeah them like I remember like at one point Trump's
Rashida
like oh yeah
Tlaib, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan
I always
Omar,
forget the
uh, uh, Ayanna Presley.
yes her yes but yeah I remember at one point like Trump had a theme like oh we should like we should tell them to all come back where they came from and like three of them were born in America and like one of them moved there when she was like 2
Yeah,
like, it's like Jesus. Not really a dog whistle at that point. Like
yeah. That was
straight up Americans of different color aren't like Americans.
this was a thing I was wondering about. How there are several inventions that I feel were like were devised by like one of the like those like weird supervillains with like this really obtuse plan to destroy Americans like human society. Uh, like dog whistles. How have those not destroyed like the fabric of like suburban living and like and urban planning? Just like because everybody knows about them. They've been in
Yeah.
TV shows, they've been in movies. Everybody
Mhm.
knows what it does, but it's like it's imperceptible to humans. If you get one, and anybody's like in theory could get one, just like blow it all the time,
You can just control all the dogs in the
right?
neighborhood.
How has that not happened? Same thing. My second one is laser pointers. How have those not destroyed society?
I guess you could like, I don't know, blind someone if you held it in their eye for a long
No,
time,
but
but
like
like
they're so fucking annoying to just like go to a movie theater and like point it at
oh yeah.
shit. Like if like any public assembly, these things like they're you can get them at convenience stores.
Yeah.
You can like shine them in the lights of other people in cars while they're driving. You can make people think
That
they're gonna
one
get sniped. That's the joke everybody goes with when they've got like a
yeah.
laser pointer. How have we not just like immaturely destroyed ourselves with these stupid little inventions? And I imagine that's why I imagine there's like an evil, like a little scientist guy. He's like, my plan is to release this one thing. I will flood the airwaves and everyone will get it. They'll know we will end the relationship between dog and man and take over the world that way.
God, that would be obviously, not great, but also awesome. Like we just have like a super villain running around just trying to like corral dogs in the streets to sick them on people.
You know the show Phineas and Ferb with like Doctor
Yeah,
Do Doctor Do. It sounds 100% like a Doctor Doofenshmirtz plan.
it does.
It just
Yeah.
doesn't have like the word "inator" at the end of dog whistleinator or like or have like Doctor Evil at the end of it. I will release these dog whistles unless you give me $1 kajillion.
Yeah. You still haven't seen Invincible, right?
No,
Okay, first off, you
I've
should.
seen
Second
I've
off,
seen the one meme about it.
yeah, which I hate that became like the meme from it. It's a funny meme, but like it spoils the show. Like that's kind of shitty.
Uh, how long is the show?
But like 8 episodes, and each episode's like 40 or 50 minutes. It's definitely worth it. If I think
Is
I'd
it on
like it less
Netflix?
than
Is
The
it on
Boys.
HBO?
Amazon.
Amazon? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
want to get a bunch
Same
of
with
different streaming services.
yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Like it's yeah. I mean, for me, like Amazon for me is just kind of like I used Amazon to ship things, which I know they're not the best, but like it's just so damn convenient that it's
Hmm.
really bad. But regardless, so I just have it through that.
Hmm. Do you have like Amazon and Netflix and What streaming services do you have?
So we have Amazon, which is just from our our regular Amazon service. We have Netflix, which we're still bumming off my parents.
Hmm.
Like if they ever kicked us off, I'll just get my own, but like I don't have a reason to. So right now we're just using theirs. We share Hulu with Crystal's sister. I think that's all.
Hmm.
Amazon, Netflix, Hulu. I feel like we have one more. Oh, Disney
Disney
Plus.
Pro, yeah.
Yeah, we have like when Disney Plus first launched, like they had it like a great deal where it was like 3 years for like $120 or something. So I got that. So we're still in the middle of that.
Hmm. Yeah, like I've got a big family, so I think the subscription limit is like 4 people. Like they could be using the account at one time, so it's very problematic to do that.
Yeah. For Netflix, ours is three, and my family occasionally we cap that out. I have two siblings, so not like a huge family, but like occasionally cap it out. But most times it's fine.
Hmm.
We rarely have more than three people on it once.
Yeah, I like the torrent shit.
It's yeah. I haven't done any like any torrenting or any like Pirate Bay or anything like that for years. Like part of it's just because like as I've grown older, especially as you like have more expendable income, it's more
Hmm.
like if I like the show, I kind of want to like support them. But
Yeah,
also
I do that with some
also
things.
it's just really easy. Like it's easy just to be like, and it's not great, but it's easy to be like, oh yeah, I'll just get this service and now I'll have all these shows. Like
Hmm. And they also have like good back catalogs and stuff. Like it
yeah,
is very different from like buying a TV subscription where you get like 80 channels that you're not going to watch ever,
oh
and you don't control any of the videos. And I don't remember how much those cost. They're like $60 a month.
yeah. I mean, depending on what you get, like it could get stupid expensive.
Uh,
Versus and like
yeah.
yeah, right. I was gonna say I'm sympathetic to the like people like to say like oh man like there's so many streaming services you're just getting six services and you basically have cable. I'm like I get that, but at the same time like if getting cable you could watch some things on demand but not as much. It's like you don't get anything that's on any of the streaming services. You only get stuff which is on real TV, which is basically nothing these days. Like
Mhm.
I'd rather just have three or four streaming services, and even if it's cable under a new name, I don't care. It's just better.
Yeah, honestly, like as far as like those annoying package deals goes, it really would just make sense to like, when you get an internet subscription to like have that bundled together with like streaming
With like
services.
Netflix and stuff.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, instead of like Xfinity offering you cable TV and Wi-Fi, they could offer you Wi-Fi
Or a
and
telephone line. Who the fuck needs a
like
telephone line?
dude, oh god, Xfinity is still just like every time you like try and talk to them, they're like, "Oh, we have a new promotion where like if you add in a telephone line, you can do like who's getting a new telephone line in 2021?" Like,
I'll throw it in my time machine, send it back to somebody
yeah,
40 years ago.
God, like yeah, like, I mean even I mean like my family, they disconnected their home phone like 5 years ago. Like
Mhm.
just like who has a landline
Have you
anymore?
noticed also with like your phone plan that they've started charging for minutes again?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay.
What server do
Maybe
you have?
maybe it's a thing in like Ukraine.
Oh,
Uh,
I'll definitely check that out. But
but like because everybody's able to use just like these like you can use your internet for phone calls.
yeah,
You don't need to have like a constantly going phone line. So like they can charge
yep.
you for a minute and it still be semi reasonable. I think it was close to something like that in China also, just because everybody uses like the one like internet app and like you had kind of you had internet support kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Uh, would you rather go back in time 1 year, but if you make contact with yourself in any way, you explode? You and your past self explode.
Yeah.
Or you go forward in time 1 year, but everybody was wondering where the fuck you were for that year.
100% pass. The pass. No, not even like close. Like if I could go past in time, I don't care. Like I'll go to like a state I've never been to. I'll go to like I
You're,
don't
but yeah,
know.
but we're going back in 1 year during the pandemic, where there's
Yeah.
like nothing going on. No, most services were kind of like closed to like in person interactions. You'd still do that?
Yo, what? No, no question. I'd go to Montana, where first off, I'm sure there aren't many restrictions. Second off, I've never been. I'm not gonna run into
I
my
partied up
stuff.
in Florida.
I will. I will take the knowledge of the fact that GameStop got up to like $450 with me, and I'll just buy a bunch of calls on GameStop for
But here's
that
the
week.
thing. You'd have to like open up a bunch of different other accounts because if you're using the ones that you already have, yourself at
I don't
that time
care.
is going to be like
5 minutes to open an account.
what?
I'm just saying I don't care. That's easy. Like,
Yeah, can you imagine if like yourself at that time, like your future self that came back and is like messing with your accounts and like it's like why the fuck do I have like 8,000 GameStop stock?
just,
And then like 2 days later, you're like, why do I have $5 million?
yeah, like
Where does the Bitcoin come
friend
from?
of mine. Yeah. God. I'm like, no, exactly. Like, I mean, I understand that's a shallow answer, and there's like blah blah blah. Ooh, like just pick the one that gives you more money. But like at the same time, like I don't know. For me, and also like so that sounds very desirable, and the alternative doesn't even sound that desirable. Like skipping a year of my life, which I plan on dying by like 30. So like, don't got more of those stories. No, but so skipping a year of my life and then just have people like wonder where I am. I just feel like that'd be like annoying to have to explain to someone. Oh yeah, I did this thing, or I haven't to skip a year.
Yeah, that's true. There are way more negatives with that. I don't know. There is definitely more like story, I guess, to going back in time and like avoiding yourself. Otherwise, you risk exploding
Yeah,
and like
if
still
I
wanting to
like,
like. Could you imagine like meeting up with the crystal at a different place and you're like, wait a second, aren't you supposed to be? It's like, I am there. Don't worry.
no,
And then
like
your present self is like, are you cheating on me?
if you if you change the parameters of it, so like instead, like maybe I don't know, like maybe I have to like live like in the next door house, or I have to like work in the next cubicle over or something like that, then that might be a bit trickier. Like that actually would sound pretty interesting though. Like I have to spend my whole life like I don't know, like I'm wearing like a ski mask and I have like a face mask put like
I can
just
imagine
trying
though,
not
like if you're like living in Florida and you create like a whole other identity and you've got like a Facebook profile, you got a bunch of pictures posted, and like somebody from your family, she's like, "Is this Derek? Derek, what are you doing for?" It's like, "That's not me." It's like, "This looks exactly like you," and you're like, "I don't know, his cheeks are different."
he's not doing the Mochi journey, so he seems 40 pounds heavier. I don't know.
Yeah. So with Mochi stuff, so we've played. We just finished a game of Risk where I didn't cheat, but I definitely had a lot of things going for me.
Oh yeah, we both kind of did. Also, for anyone who's going to watch this and who was also involved in the Risk game, if it wasn't apparent, me and Robin were teamed up the entire
We
time,
took over
which
the Southern Hemisphere.
which helped us. Until I decided to just betray Robin and then get immediately murdered for it.
Yeah, it was literally one turn after.
Yeah, I knew that this would be my last turn in the game regardless, so I decided to have some fun for it.
Man,
Worth it.
so that was like the first game of Risk where I actually like fully played with the rules, and
Yeah.
it like really it, like ramps up. It's like a poker game at the end.
Cards, yeah. I mean, like I've told you this several times. It's all about the cards. Just focus on getting cards because by the end, and like this had a shallow card progression. Usually it's +5 once you get to 15 troops per card set. This was
Hmm.
only +2. So like in like a regular game with the +5 rolls, it's like you get up to 50, 60, 70 troops. Like in the end, like it's nothing.
But it was funny, like making my last couple turns. I like my heart was beating faster,
Yeah.
which is funny to think about because like it's not only just like a board game, but it's also like a board game with like you have 24 hours to make your turn. And actually, it felt like a weighty decision.
No, I totally agree with you. Like it definitely did. Like I don't want to say my heart was racing, but at the same time, I saw it was my turn. I'd be like, stop working. Because it was usually like during the middle of the work. It's like, all right, got to plan out my moves. What I'm gonna do. We kept like going back and forth. Oh, what should I do next?
But yeah, first Risk winner. Hopefully more in the future.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
definitely play more games. I'd also
what
be down to have several concurrent games just to be absolutely insane.
what other things do you think would be like good for this kind of format of asynchronous board gaming? Do you think like Monopoly would work? I know chess works, but like with a bunch of people, I guess.
So honestly, I feel like most games in a similar vein to Risk work. So like like Settlers of Catan, or I guess Monopoly would work too. I think Monopoly there's probably more turns, so it would really drag out because
Mhm.
I mean like I don't know how many turns an average Monopoly player takes, but I feel like it's got to be higher than Risk. As long as it's not like gamer or something like that, I think it'd be fine.
Mhm. So have you been looking at all at like joining any other channels in Mochi? Have you like looked at them at all?
I haven't, not because I'm opposed to it, but just because I frankly always forget that emoji isn't just the challenges. Like the risk thing is embarrassingly enough like the first like non-challenge thing that I did because
To be fair,
I
it's
know
also like the first thing I recommended to you in like the past year related to Mochi.
yeah,
And then
no,
the
good point.
podcast.
And yeah, and the podcast, which I have watched every single podcast and I have enjoyed them, and like as I've told you several times, it's just
Please
like
suck my
the
dick
whole
on
time is
camera
just setting
more.
me up to be the most boring guest that you'll ever have.
Nah, dude, learning about like housing stuff and insurance, I think it's still relevant.
I guess that's true, and
Everybody needs to
I
learn
agree.
about white bread America in some context that doesn't have to be racism.
Fair, but but yeah, I don't, and yeah, I don't know. Like all the other guests you've had, they all talk about what they're doing and like all their accomplishments. And it's like, man, I barely understand half of what they're doing, and they all seem like the most accomplished people I've ever met. And I'm just like, yeah, I made an amber beer that was black for some reason.
I think I put too much brown sugar.
Exactly.
Nah,
I am quite the accomplished person.
I don't know. You're definitely like living out the American dream, at least as far as like immigrants are concerned.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
You planning on
Yeah,
like
I'll take offense.
you plan on like any big travels or anything? Like you guys are all vaccinated. Imagine you guys have vacation time like stocked up.
Yeah. In 2 weeks, we're going to me, Crystal, and my family. We're going to South Dakota. Um,
Interesting.
there's a lot of yeah, and in a small so like in the southwestern part of South Dakota, there's like two or three national parks, a couple of large state parks, and then obviously like Mount Rushmore. I actually went there when I was a kid. We did road trips like across country,
Mm-hmm.
and like there were things there. Like for instance, there was like a really cool reptile garden that I liked,
Are you
and
gonna
as
are
I
you gonna
told,
road trip it out there?
yeah, we're gonna road trip it out. Yeah,
Nice. I
it's
I
gonna be
definitely want to do road
awesome for
trips.
my family.
I want to do road trips
You
when I get back to the States.
road trips are fun depending on who you're with. Like I love
Yeah,
my family, but like man, sitting in the car, I'm not
but
looking forward to 13 hours in the car with my family. It's gonna be rough.
I would say it's like especially as a kid, it's rough. Like
Yeah,
only stopping like when your parents say so and like, oh, you can't get this, you can't do that. As fucking adults, it's cool because you can
yeah.
do whatever the fuck you want.
Oh, that's true. And like I still like I mean I
I'm gonna
definitely
get arrested in North Carolina. You can't stop me.
what a life goal. But yeah. So unless it's like crazy far away, I definitely prefer driving to flying still, just because that's what I grew up with. We didn't fly anywhere.
Mhm.
So I'm just used to driving, and then also just like I feel like it gives you a lot more freedom. Like so when you get somewhere, like whenever like me and Crystal go on trips, like well, it's not like oh we're going somewhere like to some resort and we're staying there. It's like oh let's drive to like Door County, Wisconsin, or Grand Rapids, Michigan, and like we'll check out a bunch of things in the area, and we'll have our car there so we could actually
Yeah,
go around and see different things, which is nice.
yeah, very much. I actually have had that problem. I think recently, or not recently, but like in the past 2 or so years, with like traveling. It's like it's go there, you can see a couple things, but you need to like figure out all of the public transportation. You need to figure out all of like where you're gonna stay and just how to get back and forth from there, in like
Yeah,
reasonable times to see stuff. Having a car there and like also the journey there being part of the journey.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting
and
way to look at it.
yeah, and I will say the journey part is real hit or miss. Like I like for instance, like usually when we do road trips, like me and Chris will get like books on tapes to listen to for at
Mhm.
least part of the time when we're not like talking or she's sleeping or listening to music or whatever.
Do you
But
guys switch off with driving, or is like one of you guys the
we switch
primary
off.
driver? Okay.
She's I'd say she's more primary, and if it's ever like if we have like a 9 hour trip, like I might like she might do the first three, I'll do the middle three, and she'll do the last three. But we try
Mhm.
and share it.
That's good.
But yeah, she's more comfortable driving, especially on highways, than I am. So
Mhm. But yeah, I know right now, like the Mochi, some of the people from the Mochi crew are in Miami. Uh,
okay,
I don't know how much. So like, if you ever check out General, they do like announcements for like parties and get-togethers. Sometimes you'll get comped for like the either the travel expenses or like wherever you're staying, and like there are like some communal housing places.
that's awesome.
Yeah, you get to meet. I wish I could take advantage of it, but flying is fucking expensive.
Yeah, and it's also a hassle. Like
Yeah,
yeah, it just I'm just in general not a fan of flying, not because I'm afraid, but I have no issue with it. It's just like you're in a small seat. You have to. It takes forever to get through. Like you have to pack a small bag that fits in a certain size. You have to go through like lines. You gotta. I always get there super early because I don't fly often and I don't
hmm
want to miss it.
your ears
Um,
get popped while you're up there. It's like
yeah, and it's just not my favorite. But yeah, yeah. So like everything with Mochi, like I've definitely have interest in doing a bit more. It's just I haven't because it's easy to do nothing.
it is easy to
But
do
I'll
nothing.
definitely check out some of the other channels. Like, yeah, and I know your brother was really good about last year, like reaching out to me with like, oh, like we're having this like group hangout and stuff like that that I could join and stuff like that, which was awesome. I just never did. No. I had other plans or something like that. I don't know, but
I know
yeah.
one thing they do is like the study halls on I think Fridays, where
Mhm.
you should check out like a it's like gather.town.
Okay.
And it's like a communal digital workspace where like you like move like a little avatar and you get to like sit in on like study tables and like you can share like a screen or you guys can just do whatever you're working on.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah. There, I think especially with like the rest of this year and next year, there's a lot of plans to like build out more of the services that you kind of get as a Mochi player.
Mhm.
And like right now, I'm working on a little like undercover game. I'll show it to you after the podcast, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's yet going to be able to hit the airwaves.
Okay.
I think we're coming up at time.
Yeah.
Any so you don't have anything to plug.
I'm not on any. I technically like I have a Facebook, but I legitimately like I just use
You
it for
don't really
Messenger.
want to advertise your Facebook to people unless you're a
It's
business, really.
literally the only social media I have, and I haven't posted on it since 2013.
Damn.
So, okay. I guess I posted wedding pictures, but yeah,
All right.
but
Well, I guess like we're looking forward to like the next risk game.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
it's great having you on. It's always great
Yeah,
talking.
thanks for having me.
Uh, any last send off? Give me your best send off.
Oh boy, I don't know. People should play Mochi Risk. I had a good time.
You know what they say.